All right. Welcome in, everybody. We are Biscuits and SEC. We are live. It's Wednesday. We're back. We got a big show, a lot to get to. As you can see on the rundown over there, a lot of Week 10 games to recap. Hugh Freeze, of course, has been fired from Auburn. Bossman is in Colombia, the country, not Missouri or South Carolina. So he's coming to you live from Central America, South America. I don't know how you would categorize it, but it's a road show for him tonight, but he didn't want to miss it. So shout out to Bossman for still being on. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here, and I was not going to miss the show with our cousin LIL BOSSMAN, the man who gave me my nickname. So even from Colombia, I'm in Bogota, Colombia right now, doing some work for MI6. And but in all seriousness, I'm down here for a little business trip. I do some work with some other organizations as well, outside of Biscuits and SEC. But I'll be darned if I'm going to miss a show for Biscuits and SEC, especially on another week when we've got a fired coach. So a lot to get into tonight. It's going to be fun.
Exactly. And you brought up our guest picker tonight. So, of course, we've been doing guest pickers all year. Tonight is a very, very special guest with our cousin JT joining us, who did give you the nickname of Bossman. So we are excited to get him on. This is our 58th show. We keep growing, so appreciate everybody being here. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to the newsletter. It comes out twice a week, Mondays and Fridays during the season. It's free, and it's just SEC and college football talk. So people that subscribe really enjoy it. We're growing that quite a bit as well. So again, thank you for all the support. We definitely feel it, and it's been a good season for us. So appreciate everybody. But I say without further ado, we got to hop into this and just go ahead and get to the Hugh Freeze firing. So obviously Freeze is out at Auburn. I would say, unlike the Brian Kelly firing, doesn't really come as much of a surprise. You see the overall record here, 15-19, 6-16 in the SEC is very bad. Only made one bowl game. Was 1-12 against ranked opponents, and compared to Jimbo Fisher, Brian Kelly, James Franklin, some of these other high-profile coaches that have been fired, a very, very manageable buyout at just $15.8 million. So what are your thoughts here? We've been talking about this for weeks, knowing that this was likely coming unless they really started winning some ball games, but it finally does come. So what's your read on, I don't know, where they go, the Hugh Freeze tenure as a whole? Just give me your thoughts on the Auburn job opening up.
Well, the first thing I'll say on this is it had to be done. It was obvious that it had to be done. Auburn fans were far out on Hugh Freeze. They were done with everything that was going on the Plains, especially for the fact that he was he was an offensive guru, and he was supposed to come in there and fix the offense. And if Auburn was going to be good at anything, they were supposed to be good at offense, and they were not. It was the defense that was what carried Auburn for the last couple of years, and their offense has been absolutely atrocious, which is why they're 1-12 against ranked opponents. Now, I say that, and I want to go back and take folks back. Some of you may have read this, but there was a pretty fascinating stat that is just the sign of the times, right? And the era of college football that we're in, it is now show me what you've done right now, more than it's ever been, right? It's a business about what have you done for me lately. And the last time that a coach started off this badly at Auburn was in the 1950s for the first 3 years of their tenure. Who was that? Who was at Auburn in the 1950s?
That would be Shug Jordan.
Shug Jordan. Jordan-Hare Stadium, named after Shug Jordan, who went on to have an illustrious career at Auburn. And so Hugh Freeze, for the last 2 years, it was one of the things in press conferences that Auburn fans got so sick of was, we're so close, we're right there, we're so close. And they really weren't that close. I sent out a tweet, I think it was last week. It was after the Kentucky game, so it was the press conference right after the game. And he said, we're this close. I know people aren't, they don't have patience in this day and age, but we're so close. And I quote tweeted it and I said, you're just not close. You're nowhere near close if you're losing to a bad Kentucky team, probably the worst team in the SEC. They are the worst team in the SEC this year. And it just can't happen. And so especially scoring 3 offensive points in that game. How can you try to sell to your fan base that you're close and that you should have patience when you've bungled the quarterback situation for 3 straight years and you're losing to Kentucky, who you hold to 10 points, and you only score 3 at home at night? It's inexcusable. It had to be done. So it makes sense that Auburn fired him, and at a buyout of only, crazy. It's a lot of money, but $15 million is not, 15.9 is not a lot in today's day and age of buyouts.
Right. Yeah, maybe 10 years ago it would have felt like a lot of money, but anymore it's not. And I'm with you. I think the whole line of, we're close and just have patience. I mean, first of all, I'm not trashing Hugh Freeze for that. I get it. I mean, the guy's fighting for his job. Of course he's going to say that.
Yeah, right, of course.
But I also see, the Auburn fan perspective of just like, come on, man. Like, kind of what you said. It's like, dude, we're not close. Like, it's one thing if you're losing close games to, well, we'll just say, A&M, Georgia, Bama, the teams that are really ranked high. And they did lose close games to at least Georgia somewhat and A&M. But you're also losing close games to everyone else in the SEC. You're losing close games to Oklahoma. You're losing close games to, I can't even think of who all they've lost to this year. But
everybody.
Your only win is against a winless Arkansas team in the SEC, that is, who's already fired their coach. So that line of thinking, again, it's a partial truth of we're close because you are playing good teams competitive, but you're also losing close to bad teams. You're losing, and not that Missouri's bad, but you're never at Auburn going to be able to lose to Missouri at home and have your fan base stomach that well, even though Missouri is a good team. That's just not how it works with tradition, resources, and investment. And so, and on the flip side too, like you said, the issue with, why they're close in all these games is the defense, which Hugh has nothing to do with. In their 5 losses this year, they scored 17, 10, 10, 17, and 3. So it's very clear where the issue was. And, what this really boils down to me, and we've talked about this ad nauseum too, is he missed on the quarterback. And I think that's twofold. He didn't just miss on the quarterback and say, shucks, bad luck. He chose to go with Peyton Thorne for a second year when everybody knew that was not going to be a great option. We had seen what he was. And he played a lot of college football. He played multiple years at Michigan State, and he started a full year at Auburn. They could have gone out and got somebody in the portal. They opted not to. From reading the tea leaves and from what I have heard, that decision was made because they wanted to invest in the recruiting class and not a big-time transfer quarterback. And that's fine. But, hey, man, you're going to put your chips on the table like that, then sometimes you're going to lose the hand because by doing that, he knew this year was the year. And he went all in on Jackson Arnold, and it didn't work out. And, again, he brought this up too, like whether it was last year or this year. I'll give him a pass for year 1 because I think Peyton Thorne, late in the cycle was a fine transfer pickup for year 1. But year 2, bad decision. And then this year with Jackson Arnold, whatever. Like, I'm sure if Auburn didn't pick him up, another probably pretty good school would have picked him up because of his recruiting pedigree, but you just missed. And there's guys all over the sport that transferred this past year that are doing well. We don't, Fernando Mendoza. Anyway, we don't need to name them all, but there's guys that are doing well.
Yeah, apparently Tom Tuberville told him to get. No, don't know if there's any truth to that, but Dieog Pavia beat you in your house and you didn't go after him. And look what he's doing in the SEC. So There's just a lot of guys that they could have gotten that, they didn't. So that's really what it boils down to. And the other thing I want to say too, just, who knows what Hugh will do in the future. I know he's
to my knowledge, still has cancer, so he's got that to work through. And I don't know if he'll be back in coaching, maybe at the G5, G6 level, but this felt to me a lot like, quarterback issues aside, kind of the game passing him by, a la Jimbo Fisher, frankly. Like, Hugh Freeze bursts onto the scene at Ole Miss. He's got a great, innovative offense. Man, that was over a decade ago. It's not innovative anymore. People know how to stop it. And he hasn't done anything, to innovate. And their offense was not good. Again, like, I know the quarterback was bad, but there was a lot more wrong with that offense than just the quarterback for the last 3 years. And, DJ Durkin saved Hugh Freeze's rear end over and over and over again. And that's the only reason they were close.
Exactly. And that was the last thing that I was going to mention on it. And you just alluded to it, which is, you talked about all the quarterbacks, right? The three quarterback mistakes. Peyton Thorne, okay, late in the cycle, he's okay for year one, but he didn't play very well. And so then year two, probably should go out and get a quarterback. Don't do that. You invest in the recruiting class. Maybe he was thinking he had 4 years, as his daughter said, on the TikTok she put out. I didn't watch the whole thing. That was getting a lot of play on Twitter, but mistake in year two, sticking with Peyton Thorne, except against Texas A&M when he looks like a Heisman candidate. And then year three, you go out and get Jackson Arnold, who had the 5-star pedigree and everything, but it didn't look so good at Oklahoma. But hey, Peyton Thorne put something out. There was multiple former Auburn players putting things out on social media with, kind of cheeky GIFs or images or graphics, basically like, hey, yeah, we kind of saw this coming because we were in the room for 2 years and it was not good. And so I don't even really know if you can blame everything on these quarterbacks, because I think, like you said, the Hugh Freeze offense, it's just not innovative anymore. I mean, I listened to Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn. Shout out to him. He does a great job. And he mentioned how, and we used to talk about this ad nauseum with, ex-A&M coaches. With Kevin Sumlin, it was the bubble screen. If we saw a bubble screen, we'd lose our mind because all they did was run the freaking bubble screen, and it rarely ever worked. And by the third or fourth year, everybody knew how to stop it. They knew what was coming. And then with Jimbo Fisher, it was like, this offense, they have so much of it on tape. He hasn't changed anything, and your wide receivers cannot get open. No one is getting open. There, you have corners draped all over receivers, and that's also a failure in recruiting in terms of the receivers not being able to get open. So that was the issues with A&M. With Auburn, they were all pissed off about, you've got all this talent. You went out and got Singleton. You've got Cam Coleman. I mean, talent-wise, the best wide receiver in the SEC, potentially even in the country. And all they're doing is running, 10-yard outs, 10-yard comebacks, and they're running 15-yard comebacks. All these Auburn fans are looking at the tape and watching these games, and they're like, all we're doing is running down the field, and they're doing hooks. What the heck are we doing? Run a dadgum, fly route, run some posts, change it up. What is going on? And so he just wasn't able to get out of his own way. And so I don't blame this all on the quarterbacks. I think it really was Hugh Freeze's offense. We saw it for 3 years, and it didn't work. 1-12 against ranked opponents, 5-19 overall. Proof is in the pudding. And so he's gone, and Auburn's looking for a new coach.
Yeah, they are. And in terms of where they go, I really don't know. I've read some stuff. I mean, it's possible, depending on how they finish, maybe Durkin could get a serious look here. And
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know that would be the worst thing. I mean, he's a good defensive coordinator, at least. And we don't need to get into what happened off the field at his time at Maryland, but he didn't really. There's not enough of a sample size of him as a head coach to say definitively one way or the other if he's good or not. So it sounds like he may get a legitimate chance. And then, man, beyond him, I because it's so crowded, I have no idea, right? I mean, you're going to hear the same names for Auburn that you're hearing for Florida, LSU, and Penn State because it's a marquee job. But in terms of how those dominoes fall, I have no idea. I don't think Lane is in the running for this one again, given how that went last time. But other than him, John Summerall, Rhett Lashley, gosh, who else would they, go after? Kenny Dillingham,
Willie,
these are the names you're going to hear. Do any of them want
Willie
the job?
Fritz. I mean, he's older, but Willie Fritz at Houston. I mean,
Sure.
I replied. So Taylor Beth Davis, ESPN reporter, and she went to Auburn, is a big Auburn fan. She put something out on her Instagram, just like, who should Auburn go after? And that was my first reply, was Sumrall. Like,
Yeah.
Hey, if LSU doesn't get him, if they're not interested because he's too small time, or who knows why, my first call is to John Sumrall, and I'm giving him a good amount of money. And I think that Auburn isn't the same as some of these other schools, LSU, or just Scott Woodward as an athletic director, in always going after like the big splash name, right? Gus Malzahn wasn't necessarily the big splash name. He was a good coach, but they
Arkansas State.
They hired at Arkansas State, and then they went after Brian Harsin, who not really a big splash name. People thought he could be a good coach, and he'd done very well at Boise, but not a splash name. Hugh Freeze was a splash name, and so do they go and try to go splash name with all this massively crowded market? Is there even really a splash name that's available right now other than Lane Kiffin? Not necessarily. So I look at what John Sumrall's done at Tulane, and that's why I replied to Taylor Beth Davis's Instagram saying John Sumrall, because he's my call at any of these jobs. Honestly, I think he's at the top of the list. Another one to mention is Brent Key at Georgia Tech. He's done an unbelievable job there. It's going to be very difficult to pry him away from his alma mater and what he has been able to do there. And frankly, selfishly, I love the fact that he has rebuilt Georgia Tech, and I love that this old power from the 70s, 80s, 90s is playing very well. And finally, the other one I would say too is Brom at Louisville for any of these jobs. Jeff Brom has done an incredible job at Purdue and now at Louisville, but also his alma mater. So
I know that's the crazy thing, and it's going to be fascinating to see, not just for Auburn but for Florida, LSU, and Penn State as well, because you have so many big jobs open, and a lot of the candidates that people are interested in are at their alma mater. Clark Lee at his alma mater, Brent Key, alma mater, Jeff Brom, alma mater, Kenny Dillingham, alma mater. And so, I don't know. Like they're doing very well. Like they're obviously beloved. That's why they're in the running for these jobs, is because they are doing well and they are beloved. So again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and it all depends on what these guys want personally and what they think the potential is at their current job and at these jobs that are open. Because, I would say other than LSU, you could argue Florida, but more recently, at least, I would say LSU. These other jobs, I think, are great and better than, where those four names that I just mentioned are. But LSU is the only one that really you look at and you say, well, three different dudes in the modern era have won a national title, whereas nobody's done it at Penn State. One guy did it at Auburn, and one guy did it at Florida. I guess if you want to consider Spurrier modern era, you can, but I'm talking like BCS on, it was Urban and nobody else. So it'll be interesting to see where they go. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's tough. Those guys are at their alma maters, and it's a different landscape out there, man. I don't know that it's any easier to win at some of those places, but do you want to start your clock over and maybe get fired in 2.5 seasons at Auburn or Florida or LSU, or do you want to stay at your alma mater and keep winning 8 to 10 games and be a legend?
Either way, these guys are getting a big raise. That's for sure.
They are. Well, we probably should start getting into a couple games before we welcome on our guest here. So let's hit Vandy, Texas real quick. So this one was a pretty fun game. 34-10 going into the fourth quarter, and then Vandy mounts a big comeback. They really started throwing the ball all over the yard. I thought my just real quick takeaways on this one, I thought Vandy looked pretty overwhelmed in the trenches on offense. They didn't run the ball well, which is unlike them. And Dieog Pavia got sacked 6 times. I think there was 10 tackles for loss. So the Texas front seven really got after them, and they couldn't quite handle that. And then Arch Manning looked good. I mean, we'll see if that Mississippi State game sparked something, but he goes 25 of 33, 328 yards and 3 touchdowns without a turnover. So probably his best game of the year. And so, Texas gets a good win. I'm not going to take anything away from them because that was a good Vanderbilt team, and they, hang on to win.
That was the best Texas has looked all year. I mean, I tweeted it out during the game. This is what people expected in the preseason of Texas, to just be able to manhandle people. And this is the first game that Vandy has not looked like the better team in the trenches, except for maybe Alabama, right? Like, I think they probably in the trenches played Alabama even in the trenches, which is still a huge feat, right, for a Vanderbilt team. So going into this game with the way that they had played on the defensive line and on the offensive line as well, even with all the talent that Texas has, that was my question is, can they hold up against Texas? And everything up to this point has shown us that, yeah, they probably can. So we'll see how it looks. Well, Texas finally put it together at home, needing a big win, and they out-talented Vanderbilt from start to finish. That's the reason they won this game, in my opinion, is just because they had, this is one of the top 5 talent rosters in America. And that showed on the field on Saturday. And they were able to, I don't think Vanderbilt had a sack in this game, if I remember correctly. And like you said, Texas had 6 or 7. So Texas was in the backfield all day. Texas jumped on them early, very quickly. Looked like it might get out of hand. It was out of hand in the fourth quarter. So I think the first thing you got to say is, hey, credit to Texas. They defended their home turf. They finally looked like the team that we thought we were going to see in the preseason, especially after coming off of 2 overtime victories, right? 2 overtime victories. You had to play extra football. You're gassed. You're exhausted. Arch is coming off a concussion. Don't know how he's going to look. And he comes out and he lights it up. He played very well. And I have said this from the start, that I thought at some point Arch would put it together. He just needed reps. He needed games. He needed, it's much different in practice versus in a game. And so he's got a bunch of games under his belt now, and he played a good Vanderbilt defense, and he played very well. So credit to Texas, credit to Arch for how well they played on Saturday. And then for Vandy, I would say that again, we've talked about this before, but there's no quit in this Vanderbilt team. 31-10. I think it was 30. Was it 34-10 or 31-10? I can't remember. Either way,
it might have been 31. You're right. I can't remember.
31-10 going into the fourth quarter. And Texas has controlled the entire game. 3 quarters, 31-10. Like, this one could get out of hand. This one could be 42-10 Texas by the end of it. It could be, it could get ugly. 48-16, whatever. Instead, Vanderbilt goes touchdown, touchdown, touchdown in the fourth quarter to get it right on the edge. And then with, I think it was like a minute 20 or something left, you have an onside kick to potentially get the kick. And the way your offense is playing, you're like, we could easily kick a field goal here, tie this game, and let's go to overtime and let's play. And they had it. I mean, that onside kick, if you guys didn't watch this game, go back and watch the highlights of it, because it started downpouring with like 3 minutes left in the game or something like that. And so the ball was very slick, and the Texas player misses it. 2 Vandy players had a chance to get it, and it just squirts out to the sideline and goes out of bounds before they're able to recover it. And so, ball didn't bounce their way in this one, but at the end of the day, Clark Lee has instilled a mentality in this team that is just very impressive, and they don't quit. Doesn't matter what the score is. They just play the next play, play the next play, play the next play. And that's why you get a result like this, where Texas controls the entire game. And then in the fourth quarter, Vandy turns it on, and it ends up being a close game.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. I think you're right. Texas deserves a ton of credit for getting out of there with the win, but Vanderbilt does as well for, just continuing to fight and claw, tooth and nail to the very end. And that's a good Vanderbilt team, and a good win for Texas. And now both of them are kind of sitting there. I mean, we saw the playoff rankings come out. We didn't even touch on that. Maybe we can hit on that briefly at the end. But Texas is in the thick of it, sitting there at 11 or 12. I think they're 11th, and then Vanderbilt's at 16. So both of these teams still, I think, control their own destinies for the most part. So I think we might as well go ahead and welcome our guest on. We can get to the rest of these games on the back end. But let's go ahead and bring JT, a.k.a. Lil Boss Man in. Let me go ahead and get us a little tunes cranking here as an intro as we bring him on.
Hey guys.
There he is. What is up, JT?
Lil Boss Man. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Yeah. Good to see you too.
Well, thanks for coming on. Again, for everybody watching out there, this is our cousin, JT, goes by Lil Boss Man. He gave Alex Boss Man his Boss Man nickname. So here's just a little bit of a background on our friend joining us. So there he is with his dog Fred, the diehard Florida State, Maryland, and Ravens fan. Kind YouTube consumer, one of the biggest SEC fans you will ever meet.
I don't know about that.
And a future Texas A&M fan once we convert him. So
yeah, maybe A&M,
Okay, all right, we'll take it.
Well, dude, thanks for joining us. I guess before we get into our picks, JT, I think I've got a couple questions for you. We'll ask you about Florida State, of course, but before that, just let the people out there know the origin of the Boss Man nickname. So how did you come up with that for Alex? And what's the backstory there?
Well, he's a boss, I think it just came to me when he was living with us for a little while. So yeah, it just came to me. We were having fun.
JT
and I got Little Boss.
He did, yeah. So JT, I lived with JT and his family for about 6 months. I used to live in Washington, D.C. They used to live in Washington, D.C. as well. And so I lived with them for about 6 months. And JT was a little bit when I lived with him, he and his sister Molly. And we used to wrestle all the time. We have some big, knockdown, drag out wrestling fights. And JT was a tough out. He was a tough tap out, and Molly was too. Molly was like a Tasmanian devil. So taking both of them on was tough. But JT was very good at giving out nicknames. And so he came up with Boss Man for me. And then naturally, obviously, he had to be Lil Boss Man. So that's where it came from. And yeah, man, it's great to have you on. It's under a little bit difficult circumstances, which I'll let Hank get into. And so we'll get into that.
Right.
Yeah. So my first question, we'll get to picks after this one, but my first question for you, JT, is just give me a pulse on the Florida State fan base. So of course your mother, our aunt, went to Florida State. You and your mom and your family are the biggest Florida State fans that I know. And so it's been, a tough. Last year was very tough. This year started out great with the win over Alabama, but now Florida State sits here at 4-4. There's, I don't know, Mike Norvell. Does he get fired? Does he stay? I know the athletic director has said that they're going to wait till the end of the season, but as a Florida State fan, we want to hear it from the source. How are you feeling about the team, the rest of the season, about Mike Norvell? What are your thoughts on what's going on in Tallahassee?
Yeah, well, last week I would have said fire him and pick up Penn State's old coach. But after what we did to Wake Forest, I changed a little bit. I want to keep him now.
Okay.
I think he's a good coach, but he hadn't won an ACC game in almost a year and a half, so it's not exactly great.
That's pretty bad. Yeah. Hey, another question I have for you is if you guys end up, firing Mike Norvell, and I'm with you, I think he's a good coach, and so I hope that he gets it turned around and figured out. But if he doesn't, and if you guys, end up firing him, can I interest you in Jimbo Fisher?
No.
Would you like to bring him back?
No. Not without he left us. No.
Last Florida State coach to win a national title, Jimbo.
Yeah, well, it should be Norvell from that 2023 season, but
It's
Could
also
have been.
the SEC, the SESPN, SEC, right? Yeah, so that's what kept us out of there. A little bit of bribes, but
oh
good.
man, I don't know
Good.
about I don't know about all that, but
you think of one
by the
loss
way,
to Alabama? No.
you gotta think here. We're coming up towards the holidays and Christmas time, so I just think that you ought to hide your Christmas tree because Jimbo Fisher is well known to discard Christmas trees during this time of the year. So be sure to hide your Christmas tree.
As you guys would know.
Yep.
We have it in the back of our house. We're not putting it anywhere near the front door anymore.
Fair. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get into our picks here, JT. So we've been doing yes pickers every single week, right? And so this is how everyone's done so far. We've got Rivers, Huey, Gabe Bach, and Drew TAMU leading the pack at 4-3. Then we've got quite a few. We've got Ellie Mae, Emily Grace McGorder, Cruz Oxenrider, and Easton Bach sitting there at 3-3. And then Daily Joy, Stingray Steve, and Cornbread Cowboy bringing up the rear at 2-4. So, JT, the door's kind of open. Like 4-2 is a good week, but we're still missing the elusive, 5-1, 6-0 week. So you could be up there.
I'm either going to be like 1-5 or 5-1. There's really going to be no in between space there.
Like that.
That's totally fair. And honestly, we pick games against the spread every week. You, of course, are too young to gamble, and I would recommend you don't end up gambling even when you are of age. We like to pick games against the spread. However, I have not bet any actual money this year because typically I am not good at picking against the spread. So I do it for fun, but kind of stay away from actual skin in the game because it is so difficult. But I'm excited to see how you do. We'll hop into our first game here. As you can see, LSU at Alabama. LSU just fired their coach, Brian Kelly, no longer the head man there. They've got an interim coach. Both teams are coming off of a bye week. Alabama has, since losing to your Florida State Seminoles, looked very good, of course. That's their only loss. And right now the Tide are favored by 10.5 points. What do you think happens in this one? Do you think LSU stands a chance, or is Bama just going to roll and cover the spread easily?
No chance. LSU, with their coach, has had trouble scoring like 20 points. So, yeah, unless they do what Florida State did, there's no way this is a close game. Not even 10.5.
Okay. I love it. So JT is picking the Tide.
Do you think it? Why do you think it's the Tide? Do you think it's because of Ty Simpson and how good he's playing? Do you think it's because of the defense? What do you think puts Alabama over the top?
I think Alabama just is a more complete team. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think they're better than LSU. Really, they have the hot hand. They're playing better, and yeah, it's kind of what's going through my head. Ryan Williams, but
yeah.
Sure.
And one other factor in this game, I saw a report today that LSU linebacker Whit Weeks, who was an All-American, is probably still out. He's not practicing yet, and he missed the Vanderbilt game and he missed the A&M game, which were LSU's two worst defensive performances of the season. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you, JT. If they're going on the road, their coach is gone, they're missing their best defender against a good Alabama offense, it's going to be very hard for them to keep this one close.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll kick it to Bossman to kick off our next game, an intro at Missouri hosting Texas A&M.
Well, I'm a little surprised on this one that we're not saving the best for last year, but we have, you know that we went to A&M. You know that we love the Aggies, and we know that you eventually will love the Aggies as well. So I think that this is probably a pretty easy pick for you here. And if you don't pick the Aggies, I think we can just end the stream. But other than that, do you think A&M is going to steamroll Missouri? I mean, Missouri here, the tough part for Missouri, even though they're hosting A&M has to go to Columbia, Missouri. Missouri's without their starting quarterback, and so they're starting a freshman quarterback in Matt Zollers, who has a lot of talent, but he's young and inexperienced, and this A&M defense has played very well and gets after the quarterback. Blitz packages for Mike Elko are exotic, and they get quarterbacks on their heels, and that can also mean quarterbacks who are experienced. So A&M playing very well. Obviously, they're 8-0 and really looking like they're going to get a college football playoff spot, and their schedule is setting up pretty well. So do you think that this is a trap game here for A&M? Do you think that they trip up, or do you think that they roll pretty easy and cover the spread here against Missouri on the road?
If I was going to say there's a trap game, it would have been when you guys played LSU. I mean, you guys I have you guys winning 42-20. I don't even have it being close because, Mizzou has limited play options now. I do still think their offense is good enough to put up some points, but not enough to beat you guys.
That's a great thing.
If I had to do the top 3 AP poll, nothing would change that. You guys are the third best team in the top 3.
You're completely wrong about that, but that's okay.
Interesting.
Prove me wrong. You haven't scored 50 plus in 8 straight games.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
I think that's
one thing I was going to say, JT, I think that's a great pick. Love the pick. But, in terms of you potentially becoming an A&M fan someday, there's never been a better time to join the bandwagon than right now. A&M's undefeated.
I already joined. I want you guys to win it all right now. Next year, I don't know about that. But right now, you guys, Florida State's out of it. Maryland's out of it. You guys, Vanderbilt, and whichever ACC team makes it. Those are probably my teams that I want to at least make it, Maybe Indiana. I like them, but
okay.
Yeah, underdogs, Indiana. Sure.
And they're better than you right now, but
well, we'll see. We'll see when we play in January if we get that we get that far, or if they do.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I love that. So JT officially on the A&M bandwagon, at least for this season. You mentioned the next team we're actually going to talk about. So you mentioned rooting for Vanderbilt. So that's our next game here. Auburn. Man, I'm going to sound like a broken record because so many SEC coaches have already been fired. But Auburn also just fired their coach, Hugh Freeze, last week. And they are going on the road to play Vanderbilt. Of course, Vandy having a great season, but just coming off of a loss last week at Texas, close game in that fourth quarter comeback. And I'm interested to see, what Auburn looks like. Again, it's hard to get a read on these teams when they fire their coach because sometimes they quit, sometimes they rally behind the interim coach who really knows. But Vanderbilt, obviously a good team at home. They are favored by 6.5 points. So are you believing in Dieog Pavia in the doors, or do you think Auburn can sneak up on them this weekend?
If Auburn did what I thought they were going to do at the beginning of the season, maybe a bit different, but no, they're just not. If Vanderbilt can control the trenches, as you guys were just saying a couple minutes ago, that's where the game's going to be won and lost. But I just don't think Auburn has the team right now and the locker room to actually have a chance to beat Pavia, to beat that that Vanderbilt squad.
This kid knows ball.
Yeah, he knows ball. The game's won in the trenches. I love it, JT. Yeah, I think and you bring up, it's hard to quantify sometimes, but I think, what you just brought up, like as a complete team, Auburn seems, obviously the head coach has been fired, but they've just been kind of disjointed, whereas Vanderbilt, I'm sure it's Pavia's leadership and that staff, they just seem very much in lockstep of like, hey, this is what we do. This is what we're going to do. And as we saw in the Texas game, it's going to be a full 60-minute fight. We're not going to give up. We're going to keep doing our thing. So I like the pick. He's got Vanderbilt covering and taking out Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
How about Alex? Take us to Lexington for Florida at Kentucky.
Well, Kentucky gets a nice win last week over those Auburn Tigers that we just talked about, and that's what ends up getting Hugh Freeze fired. They really just went on a rampage, scoring 10 points and beating Auburn 10-3, but they got the win. And in some previous games as well, Cutter Boley has looked very good. He's starting to figure it out. They scored 34, I think it was, against Tennessee. They got blown out, but they scored 34 points, which we haven't seen, I don't think, that many points from a Kentucky offense, and it's been a while. So Florida, on the other hand, fired their coach as well, along with multiple other SEC teams. So Billy Napier is out. And do you think that, with DJ Lagway, and I mean, they beat Texas earlier this year, so they have talent.
Yeah.
You think that Florida just has more talent than Kentucky, so that's why they win? Or do you think that Kentucky has a chance with this spark with what we've seen from Cutter Boley?
Yeah, I do think Florida has, better talent. And this is not me coming from like a Florida State standpoint, but like 50 degrees is way too cold for the Gators, Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. And I think Kentucky's just going to roll with being at home, having it be cold. I don't have them scoring much, nor Florida, because, they both lost their coach. Florida's coming off a close loss. But, yeah, no. I don't know what the,
3.5 is the spread. 3.5.
Actually,
so basically,
yeah. So
what's your score?
17-13 Kentucky.
Oh, so Kentucky covers. Kentucky wins.
Covers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if that happens, that means that Mark Stoops, he's probably next on the chopping block, although his buyout is a little bit prohibitive. So if he wins this game, I think he gets to stay for another week and he gets to continue coaching the Kentucky Wildcats. Lose to a Florida team that fired their coach and hasn't had the greatest year, that might put you right back on the chopping block. So it'll be interesting to see, but you got them winning. So I like it.
Yeah.
I like it too. I like your weather play, right? Like you said, hey, Florida going up. It's going to be a little chilly. I mean, everybody knows Gators, they need it to be hot and humid and steamy. They can't handle 50 degrees. So I agree with JT. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Come on.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Now our next game, and then we're going to have you pick the Clemson FSU game last, of course, as a Florida State fan. So our next game is Georgia going to Starkville, Mississippi to play Mississippi State. So this is an interesting game. Mississippi State has been very improved this year and pesky. They've lost to Tennessee and Texas in overtime at home. And so now Georgia's going to Starkville. So we'll see how they do. And then for Georgia, this is kind of a potential trap game, right? So they played last week against Florida in that big rivalry game, that world's largest outdoor cocktail party, got the win. It's a close game, but got the win. And then next weekend, Georgia plays Texas. So again, kind of a trap game spot where it's like in between a rivalry game and a big game. They go to little old Mississippi State on the road, and the cowbells are going to be ringing. So what do you think happens here? Do you think Georgia's just too good and they roll and get the win and cover here? Or do you think Mississippi State will give Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs a lot of trouble here and maybe cover or even win this game?
I think they're gonna win the game. I think Mississippi State's gonna, they've been so close so many times, and I think they're, Georgia. I mean, I like Georgia. I trust them, but I think Mississippi State's gonna have more heart to win this game. They may come out. They need to come out fast in the first two quarters, and then just hope that's a big enough cushion for the next two when Georgia comes fighting back. like they usually do. But I think it'll be enough. But and Georgia hasn't really been playing good on the road so far. Like they haven't really scored more than 20-something points, except for the Vanderbilt game, but not Vanderbilt. Tennessee game. Yes.
Yeah.
I guess really the only time they've had a good away game. By
That's
all
true.
offensive metrics.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up that Georgia keeps starting slow. So I like your theory that Mississippi State just has to get out to a big lead and then hang on in the second half, because that seems to be when Georgia, comes back like they did against Florida last week, or Ole Miss, or even they lost against Bama, but they came storming back in the second half. So I love it. He's picking Lil Boss is picking Mississippi State not just to win, or not just to cover, but to win outright. So big upset coming in Starkville.
Clanger, man. Big time. I like it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Well, we got our last game for you here, the Clemson-Florida State game. So, Boss Man, give us an intro.
Okay. Well, I think to start us off here, right there, that's our main man, Rick Wilmarth, friend of the show. And we call him Captain Biscuit around here because he has been featured with multiple biscuits that he has sent in for our Biscuit of the Week. And he's been a longtime friend of the show, longtime watcher of Biscuits SEC Live. He's telling you, Lil Boss Man is doing a good job, and I couldn't agree more. This guy right here, he might be a recurring guest picker. I'll just say that. He's doing a dadgum good job here. So we'll see what he picks here. I'm interested to see, because I think that knowing how bad Florida State has been this year, that maybe Clemson might get Florida State at home. It's hard to go in to Memorial Stadium at Clemson and get a win. I don't care how bad the Clemson Tigers are. So, I mean, look at this right here. The stadium pulse for Lil Boss Man is just through the roof, because Florida State at 4-4 has to go into Memorial Stadium in Death Valley in Clemson and get a win. And it's been tough to do that for the Florida State Seminoles in the last couple of years. Now, Florida State, we're curious to see if you think that they're going to win by 100 or by 1,000. But do you think that Thomas Castellanos is able to go into Memorial Stadium, get a big win? Clemson pretty wounded, hasn't been a good year at all. Dabo Swinney's on the ropes. He's having a lot of trouble in the press conferences and everything like that. And I honestly don't even know. I know that Cade Klubnik was hurt. Full transparency here. Our mother went to Clemson, and I actually went to Clemson for a year before I transferred to A&M. So don't hold it against me, everybody out there. And Lil Boss Man holds it against me all the time. But that being said, do you think the Florida State Seminoles get a big win this weekend in Clemson in a rivalry game on ACC Network?
Yeah. So, I mean, Clemson's defense is what matters here. Like, if they're able to stop us from running the ball, from like make us throw the ball, they have a chance. As I want to say, like they have a good chance. I think it's going to be tight through the first three quarters. And I think at Florida State, Clemson's wounded. They just gave up 46 to Duke. So that's not exactly a great look. And losing that one up 7, up 14, and blowing it, that's kind of a tough loss to, handle. So, yeah, I do think – and there's something different about last night's – or when we played Wake Forest. Like, there's something different there. So, I think we pull away fourth quarter, win 38-27, but – it could definitely go much different playing in Death Valley. But I think Clemson's fans are kind of done with this year. And there's no way Clemson's firing Dabo Swinney, or else they'd be insane.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it would be insane to fire Dabo. It's one bad year. The man has brought them to multiple national title games, brought them multiple national championships, all of that. So I agree with you there. I don't know. Is this a night game? I can't remember if it's a night game or not.
7 p.m. ACC Network. So they're pushing them to the side. They didn't want to give them the marquee channel, but JT
he doesn't deserve the marquee channel.
Yeah, at this point, but JT, I got to give you credit here for pulling out the Duke statistic, because Big Boss Man just introed that like it's hard to go win in Death Valley. And I'm looking at this schedule and I'm like, I just saw LSU, SMU, Duke. All these teams are going into Death Valley and winning this year. So why not FSU?
We're better than all of them. We're better than all of them. We should be killing them.
That's right.
They want to be they think this. Yeah, no, you got.
They got that Clemson graveyard out there. They ought to just put themselves in it this year.
Yeah. Fans probably gonna do that if they lose in this game. They'll probably come the next day and just nail themselves in.
Yeah.
I know. And you know what, JT? I was looking at the Florida State schedule. So let's say your prediction comes true and Florida State wins this weekend at Clemson. They're 5-4. And then they have NC State, Virginia Tech, and Florida. So those are all winnable games. Now, they're all losable too because Florida State's lost to Stanford and some not very good teams. But
we don't need to talk about that.
Oh, I'm just saying, if you get the win this weekend, I feel confident that the Noles are at least going bowling. You're going to be back in a bowl game if you guys can pull it out this weekend.
I mean, if we can even if we lose to – well, actually, we need to win 3 of our next 4 games for ESPN even to think about giving us one. But, we just gotta if we can beat an SEC team or both SEC teams on our schedule by a lot of points, I mean, I think it would show that the bottom half of the AC is better than the top of the SEC. Let's just put it that way.
All right.
You guys, number 4 team in the country, lost to one of the worst ACC teams.
Look, man, you were doing so good here, and you just tanked it with that comment. You got to know your audience here, man. What are you doing?
I don't care. I don't really care. Take me off the show. I made my picks now.
He's going off guns a-blazing.
That's right. Yeah. Hey, take this, all you SEC fans. That's right.
Yeah, really.
That's right. Well, JT, we've got one last question for you. So we ask all of our guests this as we wrap up the show. So great picks. Thank you for the picks. I'm excited to see how you do this weekend. I'm hoping for a 5-1 or 6-0 week so you can take the lead in our guest picker standings. But we get all of our guests out of here with this last question, and we just ask for your favorite biscuit. So I know you're a Bojangles connoisseur, so if you want to go with your go-to from Bojangles, that's great. Or if you've got another local Wilmington place you like to go to, just could be homemade too. What is your favorite biscuit?
Probably Bojangles. It's probably my favorite, but it's got a bit of stiff competition with like Hilton's. I don't know. There's a lot of good biscuits. Actually no. Bojangles is the second best. There's this place here called Ruth's. It's biscuits and gravy, unbelievable.
Ooh, okay. Like to hear that. Ruth's. Next time we come to Wilmington, you're gonna have to take me to Ruth's.
All right.
I feel
gladly. I'd love to go back.
I'm Googling it now. We're gonna find this biscuit.
Yeah, darn right. Also, by the way,
I love it. So Ruth's.
I feel like Bojangles, I am proud to say that I am the one that introduced you and your dad to Bojangles. We were in Tennessee. And
the Bowberry biscuit, not Bojangles, but the Bowberry biscuit.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. They had never been to Bojangles, and we were in Tennessee, and while we're driving by, we had to get some food. And so I saw Bojangles. I was like, we got to go to Bojangles. And they were like, what is Bojangles? Why would we go to Bojangles? I was like, trust me.
We were confused about the Bowberry biscuit, not Bojangles.
I said, trust me.
That's on there a billion times.
Yeah. So now they love it. They get the Bowberry biscuits. You get a chicken biscuit if you want to get something extra, or you can just get some chicken, get a sweet tea. If it's in the morning, get a coffee. It's hard to beat Bojangles, man. It's one of the best.
Yeah.
I figured that would be your pick. That's why I put Bojangles down there.
I saw it down there. I'm like, oh wait, I wonder what's gonna. I wonder what they think I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Shout out Bojangles. Yep, sponsor the show. We love you.
Really?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And shout out to Ruth's in Wilmington.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, JT, you're the man. Thank you for hopping on. Great picks. You know your stuff. This guy knows ball. And We'll see you in like 2 weeks because I'm about to get married, and rumor has it Lil Boss will be in attendance. So I'm excited to see you, buddy.
Maybe. All right. I'm excited to see you guys too.
Okay, man. Looking forward to it. And make sure that you break out some dance moves on the dance floor. I'm looking forward to that.
I will.
All right, buddy. We'll see you soon. Thanks for coming on, man.
All right.
See you, buddy.
All right.
There it is.
Well, that was our guest picker this week. Lil Boss, JT, our cousin. That was fun. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that. He's a, I don't know if he has any aspirations to be a broadcaster such as Easton Bach, the other younger guest picker that we had. But I think if he wants to, he's got a future in it. Again, he knows ball, watches a ton of football, loves it. Anytime we get together with him, we're just talking football. So thanks again to JT for joining us tonight. We want to get back to some of the games from last week.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's touch on Georgia, Florida. We kind of mentioned it. I don't have a ton to take away from this game other than it felt like a lot of Georgia games this year where they just made plays at the end to win. They need to drive late, 7-play, 82-yard drive to score with 3 minutes left, and they get the win. So what were your takeaways from this one?
Yeah, I think there's really two things to take away from it. One, Florida's still in the fight. They haven't quit, right? You played Georgia like that to the end. You still got a little bit of fight left in you. So that was one. Another one, at least, on the Florida side, to stick there for just a second, tough call, end of the game, right? Ball goes through, I think it was Sturdivant's hands, and it is like this close to being a catch. And depends on which side of the side of the equation you're on here, whether that was a catch or not. I watched many, many angles of this, and I was like 50-50 on whether it was a catch or not. I don't know. I think there was one angle I saw where it did look like it was pretty obvious that it hit the ground, but then there's a bunch of other angles that make it seem like it was not. It was not obvious that it hit the ground. So tough call. Didn't go your way on that one to continue that drive and potentially win the game. But other than that, man, we've talked about this before on the show, what Kirby Smart said a couple weeks ago when he said in the press conference, we're hard to kill. And I've been saying this now for a couple weeks since he said that. But this is what Georgia's doing. This is just who this Georgia team is this year. They are very hard to kill. They may not be the Georgia of old that can just overpower you and they're a juggernaut and, et cetera, et cetera. But they have a mentality that they are just tough to kill. And we are Georgia and we should beat you. And we're going to beat you no matter how we have to do it, whether we have to beat you in a shootout with Tennessee or whether we have to beat you in a knockdown, drag out, knife fight in a phone booth like they had to do against Florida and how they've had to do it against multiple other teams this year. So Georgia's just tough to kill, still in the fight. Gunnar Stockton makes plays when he needs to. And again, vindication for Biscuits and SEC Live with Gunnar Stockton. We were singing his praises in the preseason. Many others were down on him. And he just continues to make plays and look like one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC.
Yeah, he does. I know statistically, and for full games, there's definitely better quarterbacks. But when it comes to crunch time in the fourth quarter, I don't think there's been a better quarterback in the conference so far. I mean, he's making big time plays when they need him the most, and he did it again. So good for Georgia. Again, we brought up they've got an interesting game this weekend. Will Boss picking Mississippi State to get the upset? I could see it. So the Dogs better bring it in Starkville. Speaking of Mississippi State, we can hop to that one real quick, and then we've got a couple other games to get to. But my takeaways from this one, I didn't have a ton. Again, other than like great for Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State, first SEC win since 2023. I think that they'd lost their last 16 or 17. Obviously, his first win there, and not all those losses were on Jeff Lebby that preceded him. But great win for them. They come back from 14 in the fourth quarter. I mean, that's another team that has been fighting all year and is not quitting and has just been coming up short. Mm-hmm. They finally get over the hump with this one. I mean, that play was just awesome. It's fourth down. He throws it into the flat. A guy breaks a couple tackles and just will not be denied. I think that was Evans on the reception. So that was really fun to see. And then my takeaways on the Arkansas side, man, is we kind of even said this before this game, but I think the Bobby Petrino experiment has run its course. I don't think there's really any chance that he actually is a legitimate candidate for the job. They just haven't looked very good. And in this game, they keep kind of similar to Auburn, but even more painful probably for Arkansas fans. I mean, they just find ways to lose games. So most of the season, they can't quit turning the ball over, and not just turning it over, but turning it over at the exact moment they can't afford to have a turnover. Well, in this game, they don't turn the ball over, but they just go ahead and have 18 penalties for 193 yards. So, again, I think the Bobby Petrino, whatever momentum he may or may not have had when he got the interim tag, I think is probably gone, and they're, we'll be looking elsewhere. And that team, that's just another tough loss. I mean, a 14-point fourth quarter lead, you blow it. That's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, brutal to be an Arkansas Razorback fan right now. It's been brutal for years to be a Razorback fan. It's been brutal for some other fan bases as well, Florida, Auburn, A&M for a long time until Mike Elko. Texas until Steve Sarkisian. I mean, there's these periods of time where schools just go through this. But for Arkansas, it's been since Bobby Petrino, in the early 2000s or whatever it was, 2007 or 8 or, around that time period. So yeah, just rough for the Arkansas Razorbacks to blow a lead like that against Mississippi State. And they just find ways to lose games. Like you said, there's just no explanation for it. It just, one week it's the turnovers, the next week it's the penalties, and they just can't get out of their own way. And it's unfortunate because they're wasting Taylon Green, who, sure, he turns the ball over at times, but talent-wise, if you put him on another team in the SEC, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. I mean, the kid is super talented. Now, on the Mississippi State side, I'm just happy for him, man. Like Jeff Lebby, they've been knocking on the door. They've been so close. This team is so much improved, especially from what we thought they were going to be in the preseason, right? I mean, I think I picked them to go the under. I can't remember if I picked them at 3 or 4 wins, but I picked them, not to have a good season, and they're having a pretty good season. And they should have had a couple other wins, in the past few weeks. Just weren't able to get it done against Texas or against Florida. But finally, you get it done, and you are the ones on the end of a good outcome where you make the comeback. So I'm just happy for Mississippi State fans, and congratulations to them. And it looks like, the future's bright now. You got that win. All right, let's keep building on it. Let's keep building on what Jeff Lebby is building on in Starkville. Yeah,
agreed. Let's see. Let's go to Neyland. How about? I think the last two we can kind of touch on real briefly, but this was a big game that I think deserves some conversation. So I'll be the first one to admit, I mean, I'm eating crow on this one because I kind of thought Tennessee was going to run away with this one. I thought 3.5 was pretty low spread, but Oklahoma, man, they really impressed me with that. I mean, coming off of the loss that they had to Ole Miss at home, to go on the road at night to that environment and really just out-muscle Tennessee was really impressive. So, my takeaway was that is a tough team, and Venables clearly has their minds right, and they, as we're talked about with a lot of these teams, but like those dudes are fighting, and it showed up big time in this one in the trenches, right? So they kind of bullied Tennessee. They had 8 tackles for loss and 4 sacks. They ran the ball extremely well. They had a tailback, Xavier Robinson, I think, went over 100. Mateer had 80. They had 192 yards as a team. And then on the flip side, they held Tennessee to 63 yards rushing, and then obviously forced the scoop and score, which was awesome, dude. R. Mason Thomas just dude, start giving that guy the ball on offense. He can run. I mean, that was impressive. Just running with that guy for 10 yards on his back and then finally throwing him to the ground before he gets into the end zone. That was awesome. And then, the 2 interceptions, I give credit somewhat to Oklahoma for forcing those, but also those were just awful decisions by Joey Aguilar. Don't really know what he was doing on either one of those. It looked like he kind of just threw up a prayer deep over the middle, and you give credit to the Oklahoma secondary for A, being in position, and then B, making the play and, not dropping it. But, I mean, both of those balls were just thrown in double coverage and really bad decisions. But I was just impressed. I didn't think that Oklahoma could do that on the road. And they proved me wrong. So good on the Sooners.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to my friend Adam Villio. He called me out when I made my pick last week, and I said I thought Tennessee was going to roll. I thought, look, nightmare at Neyalnd, man. Nightmare at Neyalnd. And the doing the blackout uniforms. Tennessee has an incredible atmosphere for those nightmare games. And Oklahoma turned it on its head and made it a nightmare for the Vols. And so my friend Adam Villio, he called me out in the DMs. He sent me a DM. We went to high school together. And he said, ain't going to happen. Oklahoma's going to roll. No problem. We're going to take care of the Vols. He said, you're going to regret your pick. Adam, I regret my pick. You were right. I told him, I said, look, it takes a big man to admit that he's an idiot. And I'm that big man. And so, I'm admitting it. Pat me on the back for that. But made a dumb pick here, and he was right about the Oklahoma Sooners. I was impressed with them, like you said, the defense. We know the defense is very good. They disrupted everything that Tennessee wanted to do all night. The Tennessee offense was discombobulated. They never seemed to get very much of a rhythm going. The turnovers obviously helped Oklahoma, hurt Tennessee. But that is not an easy environment to go in and get a win. And we've talked about this going back like last week and 2 weeks ago. And Oklahoma, looking at their schedule and what they had just done by losing 2 straight games, it was like, all right, man, this one could get out of hand pretty quickly. And what have they done? They've come back and they've won against Tennessee. And now you look at their schedule and you've got Alabama, Missouri. I'll pull it up here. So you got Alabama, Mizzou, and LSU left. Well, you know what? That doesn't look so intimidating anymore, does it? I mean, Alabama, of course, that's going to be a tough one to win. But then Missouri, without their starting quarterback, and LSU, not very good. LSU is not good. And so you get them at home, and that looks like a win now. So, I mean, now it's in front of Oklahoma. I don't think they're going to be going to the playoff or anything like that, but I do think that they have a chance to go to a very good bowl game and build for the future and get to somewhere like a 9-3, 8-4 kind of thing. So I think that takes Brent Venables off the hot seat. I kind of think he already is off the hot seat. And so anyway, credit to Oklahoma. That's a tough environment to go into. And they got the moxie. They got the win. John Mateer's looking better, looking like he's getting, much more healthy from the thumb injury that he had. So if you're an Oklahoma fan, got to be excited about what you saw.
Yeah, I think so. I'm interested to see. I don't know. Depending on how if they lose to Alabama, depending on how close that game is, don't count out a 9-3 SEC team. And I'm not even saying that that's deserved. Now, granted, if Texas is 9-3 and Oklahoma is 9-3, Texas is of course in ahead of them. Texas was ranked ahead of them, as they should be in the rankings this week. But man, based on the rankings that came out, and we might as well just touch on this briefly if you had any thoughts. I didn't even put a graphic together, but
I got one for us if we want to. It's not a great graphic, but we at least got it. We can talk about it.
It's possible that there could be a 9-3 SEC team. And like I said, I don't even know if I necessarily agree with that, but a few things that stood out to me. It seems very clear the ACC is a one-bid league.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the G5 is going to get somebody in, the G6. But, BYU and Texas Tech play this week. So one of those teams is going to be dropping. And it's very Big Ten SEC heavy. And I'm just saying, depending on how the dominoes fall, man, I think there could be a 9-3 SEC team that sneaks in there.
You're not wrong. So, yeah, maybe I am wrong, about Oklahoma, right? You can just keep winning. Just keep winning. If you can win And if you can get to 9-3, with say you lose to Alabama, but then you win your next 2 against Missouri and LSU, yeah, you're going to have a really strong argument. And that's because of your losses, right? Like you've got a loss to Texas, who currently ranked ahead of you, probably won't be when they lose to A&M at the end of the year. But and then your other losses to Ole Miss and to Alabama, which, at least 2 out of those 3 teams, potentially all 3 teams, could be in the college football playoff discussion and potentially in the college football playoff at the end of the year. So get to 9-3, you have a real argument to get in.
Right. I mean, again, just for context here, Texas and Oklahoma, Notre Dame is the top 2-loss team right now, sitting there at whatever they are, 6-2, which, by the way, I think is insane. I'm sorry. I think Notre Dame is a really good team, and I think certainly playoff caliber, but resume-wise, I don't understand that. The team that beat them, Miami, also has 2 losses and is somehow 8 spots behind them. I saw the Notre Dame ranking and I thought, that's just the committee loves Notre Dame because it's Notre Dame, and B, which in my opinion, that's fine. I mean, there's a lot of big brands that get the benefit of the doubt. That just is what it is. But the thing that bugs me is it tells me that when you lose matters, which I don't think should be the case because, again, Miami beat that team, and now we're sitting here and they have the exact same record, and Miami's 8 spots behind them. And the only reason they're 8 spots behind them is because Miami's lost 2 of the last 3 games they played, and Notre Dame's won 6 in a row. Because otherwise, I don't know.
It's who they lost to, though, right? It's at SMU, and they lost to Louisville. Louisville's a good team right there, 15, ranked ahead of Miami now. But losing to Louisville and then to SMU, I think the SMU loss is really what's pushing them back.
Man, I think that's true. I guess my biggest qualm with it, maybe it's not even that I'm not even saying Miami necessarily should be ahead of Notre Dame, but 8 spots feels drastic to me. Especially when you look at Notre Dame, like, again, they won 6 in a row, but one of those was against a ranked team in USC, and the rest of them were a bunch of nobodies. So it's not like they're out there beating high-quality teams. So anyway, that bugged me a little bit. But back to my original point, Oklahoma. So Notre Dame's the top 2-loss team, but then Oklahoma and Texas are sitting there, the next 2. And they are ahead of Virginia, Louisville, and Georgia Tech out of the ACC that all only have 1 loss. So, again, it feels to me that only the ACC champ will get in. And then I think if you're interested in the 3-loss SEC team, so if you're rooting, if you're an OU, Texas, or even Vandy fan, it'll be very interesting to see where the loser of BYU Texas Tech is put, because BYU's undefeated and Texas Tech has 1 loss. So Texas Tech, is getting the benefit of the doubt over Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, Vandy, etc. Will BYU. Certainly Texas Tech won't if they lose. They'll be behind them. But would BYU? And my guess is no. Because they're already sitting behind teams that have 1 loss. So I almost think you become a Texas Tech fan this weekend and see how far BYU drops. And then again, it's like if you're already ranked ahead of somebody that has less losses than you, then that just opens the door for you being 9-3, them being 10-2 to give you the nod because you're already ahead of them.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's going to be interesting, man. These college football playoff rankings, we got a long way to go. A lot of football left to play. Kind of rooting for the Who's a little bit, man. I mean, I feel like I'm the home improvement guy over the fence over here.
Yeah.
Like, hey. What do you got going on, Tim the Toolman Taylor? But yeah, I mean, look, we've got the connections to Charlottesville. We got a bunch of friends who went to UVA, and it's great to see UVA football back in the top 15. It's been a long, long time. Tony Elliott's doing a great job there. So, first college football playoff rankings, great fodder, but a lot of football left to play. Agreed.
Well, let's go rapid fire on these last 2. Any takeaways from this one? I know, Mike Shula, of course, was dismissed after the game on Sunday. That also probably a long time coming, but Ole Miss just keeps rolling.
Yeah, Ole Miss is headed for the playoff, and it'll be interesting to see what that means for Lane Kiffin. Does he leave Ole Miss in a great situation, or does he, have stars in his eyes and he decides it's time to check it out at LSU or at Florida? I don't know. But aside from that, Ole Miss has it going this year, and they're focused on what's going on in the next few weeks. And I think that they're college football playoff bound, if I had to guess. This is a very good team, very tough to defend. On the South Carolina side, I just feel for South Carolina fans right now. This was a team that coming into the year, they were ranked 13. They had college football playoff hopes. They had Lenora Sellers coming back. You got Nick Harbor on the outside. You feel like you got the talent. Dylan Stewart coming back at defensive end. And it just hasn't gone their way. Their offensive line is terrible. It has been bad for a couple of years. They were able to cover it up last year. This year, they haven't been able to cover it up. And it's just a very, very disappointing year. Feel bad for our friend Ori Lee Kennedy, Cornbread Cowboy, who we had on last week, and he picked the Gamecocks are going to cover, man. Gamecocks are going to cover, and they didn't cover. They kept it tight enough, until the fourth quarter, and Ole Miss pulled away. But just a disappointing season in Columbia.
Yeah. To take this on a real quick detour. Preseason, and we'll do an autopsy of sorts after the season with all our predictions and see how they turned out. But I feel confident at this point in the season saying that my SEC Player of the Year pick for Lenora Sellers will not turn out to be true. So you brought up a quote from one of our favorite shows, The Office, earlier, saying, you are the big man to admit when you're an idiot. I'll bring up another quote. And pull this one from Dwight Schrute. So my official statement on picking Lenora Sellers to win SEC Offensive Player of the Year is, I state my regret.
Well, I think that you're a big man for doing that. So
thank you.
Good for you.
Thank you.
I will say I'm gonna dig up this tweet. And South Carolina fans were mad at me, and they were all over me, and I tried to reason with them. But so I think it was Ghost who covers Texas football, and he put out a tweet in the preseason. He just said, of the SEC teams, who do you think has the potential to have like a disaster season or the most disappointing season based on their expectation level in the preseason? And I replied and I said, I think it's South Carolina. I'm not sold that they replenished the talent that they had from last year. I'm not sold on this offensive line. And I'm just not sold that they're going to be a top 15 team in the country and competing for a college football playoff spot. I have been wrong about much, but I was not wrong about that. I have been vindicated on that one. And the offensive line thing has come to fruition. They're just not good. They don't give Lenora Sellers enough time. And defenses have figured out that if you can get pressure on Lenora Sellers and if you can bottle him up in the run game, they don't have a whole lot in the passing game that they can overcome. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. Well, the only other game we have, and to be honest, we're already a little over. I don't have much to say. Good win for Kentucky. Really bad performance from Auburn. The quarterback situation, snip, snap, back and forth. Hugh Freeze got fired. It just is what it is. But I'll say good for Kentucky, right? Mark Stoops on the hot seat, certainly. Kentucky's they've been fighting this year, right? They have not mailed it in. I don't really think anybody across the SEC's mailed it in this year so far. But come up short against Texas, kind of get blown out against Tennessee, and then hey man, you go on the road to Jordan-Hare at night and you get a win. So good for Big Blue Nation, good for Cutter Boley. And honestly, good for Auburn because now they're free of Hugh Freeze, and I know their fans were happy about that. So.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't have much to say on this one either. It was, in terms of watching the game, kind of a dud, 10-3, dud of a game. But aside from that, congrats to Kentucky fans. Get a win in Jordan-Hare at night. That's never easy. And they put Auburn fans out of their misery by getting Hugh Freeze fired. So the one thing I'll say about this is I don't know if folks saw the press conference with DJ Durkin today, but he mentioned that there will be one play caller that he I can't remember the guy's name right now. Forgive me. But
Derek Nix.
Derek Nix. We have full confidence in Derek Nix, and he will be the one, making the calls going forward. Single play caller. So I don't exactly know what that says. Maybe it was just him responding to the question and confirming that it will be one play caller. But to me, reading between the tea leaves, something of what we saw in the preseason was actually happening, where we had multiple play callers who were all trying to figure out who's playing. I don't know if it was 3 play callers. I don't know if it was 2 or what, but him responding in that way tells me that there was something else going on. And maybe there was actually something to that quote in the preseason of what Hugh Freeze said, which is probably why he doesn't have a job anymore.
Yeah, that's spot on. And that's a good call out. Durkin had some, not disrespectful, but just like kind of no nonsense, like hinting at things that were going on under the previous regime that he would never, co-sign. And that was definitely one of them. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how Auburn does this weekend. But let's close it out here. We got 2 last things to get to. Of course, we've got our Muschamp Coach of the Week. We do it every week. This is an homage to the great Will Muschamp. We miss him on the sidelines of SEC games. We loved his passion, his fire, and he's just a football guy through and through. So we like to honor one coach every week who exemplifies that passionate Will Muschamp spirit. And this guy wins a lot of them, and he's won it again. He happens to be the coach at who succeeded Will Muschamp at South Carolina. But here is Shane Beamer yet again winning Muschamp Coach of the Week for this display on Saturday.
Someone on the other end of that headset is getting an earful right now. We'll step aside.
So I'll say maybe it wasn't the best week for Muschamp Coach of the Week. So we didn't have a ton of options, I didn't think, unless we missed something. But the reason, what put this over the edge to me, because coaches yell into their headset a lot. What I loved was the back and forth. He's screaming, and then he pulls it, and then he's like, I'm not done. And then he puts it up again, and then he pulls it back down. I mean, 3 times he goes from screaming into the headset to trying to contain himself to, no, I'm not done screaming at you, And obviously, we've come to know that he was chewing out Mike Shula and then ended up firing him. So tough year for South Carolina. Shane Beamer, I love the passion. He's got it.
Yeah, he does. And yeah, you're right. 3 times going back to the well. I'm not done. I'm trying to hold it in. I'm trying to control myself. And this is so dadgum bad that I just have to rip my offensive coordinator a new one. Not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Yeah,
that was pretty funny display. Not for South Carolina fans, because obviously it was ugly and in a loss. But yeah, that is a great Muschamp Coach of the Week. The passion is there.
It is there. Yeah. Shane Beamer, he wears his emotions on his sleeves, and I respect that. I love that about him. And so he wins this award a lot.
He does.
We'll close it out with our Biscuit of the Week. So again, we do this every week. If you have submissions or you want to be featured, send us an email, drop us a line on, any of our social media platforms, DMs, whatever, or just tag us on social media. I'm sure we'll see it. And we'll be happy to feature you. But you put this one together, so take us away with our Biscuit of the Week.
Sure. So friend of the show, Ellie Mae Williamson, who we had on a couple of weeks ago, she covers the Vols for TPL Tennessee. Go check out her work if you don't follow her already. She does a great job over there. But she mentioned a couple biscuit spots when we asked her what her favorite biscuit spot was. And one of them was Ruby Sunshine, which you have actually been to in Knoxville. Fantastic place. You gave it great reviews. Ellie Mae gave it great reviews as well. But she had another one that she mentioned, and so I wanted to look that up and check it out. And so our Biscuit of the Week this week is from Cafe 4 in Knoxville, Tennessee. You can see right there on the left, that is some chicken and waffles. And that looks absolutely amazing. And then on the right there is their chicken biscuit. And I think that's some gravy on top there. I think there's some cheese under there somewhere too. But some biscuits and gravy there. But that's a big piece of chicken. So fried chicken biscuit. with some gravy on top. Looks amazing. And then I added this one down below. You can see, I think it's an espresso martini, but they do this Tennessee, the block tea right there, and they put it in the middle of that espresso martini, which was getting rave reviews on Instagram. So I felt like it had to be featured tonight. But Cafe 4, man, looks incredible. So shout out to Ellie Mae Williamson. Thank you to her for the recommendation. If you're in Knoxville at any point in the future, make sure to put Cafe 4, on your list.
Yeah, that looks delicious. Yeah. I have to say, too, any chicken and waffle plate that has, of course, syrup, but also gravy means you're in the right spot. If you're getting gravy served with your chicken and waffles, it's going to be good. It's going to be very good. So, yeah, shout out Cafe 4. That looked awesome. And shout out to Ellie Mae Williamson for the recommendation. That will do it. We have gone an hour and 25 minutes. Bossman is down in Bogota, Colombia. So,
God knows where.
It could be 5 a.m. for all we know. I mean, who knows what time it is down there? But
doesn't matter the ball. Doesn't matter the hour.
That's right. Well, thanks for joining us from south of the equator or maybe north of the equator. My geography is not very good, but thanks for joining us tonight, and thank all of you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. We're Biscuits and SEC. We're growing. Appreciate all the love we've been getting. Tell your friends about us. Subscribe to YouTube, our socials, to the newsletter, etc. It just helps us out. Everything, of course, is free. So we just appreciate all the support that y'all have been showing. And we'll be back next week, same time, same place. See y'all then. Appreciate y'all.
SEC After Dark tomorrow for picks. See you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, good call.